tell you something. Me, since I was a little girl, I did not want to have no children. I said, I ain't doing this. I am not having no children. I am not doing this. And then my aunt was pregnant. God bless her heart. Let me tell you. And I was there when she went into labor. Ooh, when I saw the way she went, the things, the screaming, the biting, the holding, I said, I will never, ever, ever, ever do this. I said, even if you pay me.
And I'm one of those people who also sees the choice to have a kid as a sacred choice. A lot of people see kids as extensions of themselves. No, that's an independent human being you're bringing into this world. And I'm sorry if you cannot acknowledge that you're bringing an independent human being with so much potential into this world. Then if we were going to give qualifications on people who have kids or not, if you can't understand that, you're not even qualified to have a kid. Welcome to another episode of the Two Naija Girls podcast. I am one Naija girl, Cynthia, and we have the other Naija girl,
Jubilee Gamaniel.
Jubilee Gamaniel.
Yes.
Jubilee Gamaniel. Before we get into the topic of this episode, I just want to take the opportunity to say thank you to the people who are finding our videos. Yes. I was just talking to Jubilee about how we had a small spike in viewership last week. We got one of our videos over 100 views now. Our first video to go over 100 views. And yeah, and as of the last time I checked, we had about 20 subscribers.
Yes, we did.
That to me,
that's
in
a big
this
deal.
age, it is. In this YouTube economy,
yes,
that is a big deal.
Yes.
So I just wanted to say thank you so much. I'm not even sure where you all are finding us, but thank you for your support. Yeah, and right now we are recording a few days before the U.S. elections.
Yes. Just to be clear, I have voted. I am an early voter, so I voted.
Ooh, hey, I love that. I love that. So it's just a few days to go. Like, while we're very optimistic that Kamala Harris will win, we hope that by the time we're releasing this episode, that's what we'll be talking about. And I say that because the topic of today's discussion was triggered by something powerful, in my opinion, something powerful that she said in a recent interview with this other podcast called Call Her Daddy.
Yeah. There has been a very big fixation on biological children, stepchildren, women that have children versus women that don't have children. It's like a huge point somehow of this entire election, right? I saw the governor of Arkansas said, "My kids keep me humble." Unfortunately, Kamala Harris doesn't have anything keeping her humble. How did that make you feel?
I don't think she understands that there are a whole lot of women out here who, one, are not aspiring to be humble. Two, a whole lot of women out here who have a lot of love in their life.
I love it.
I love it too. I love the entire statement. Yes.
I love how she flipped it around on its head by saying, not every woman aspires to be humble, right?
Yes.
So there's so much to unpack. The first thing I would like us to discuss, Jubilee, is the assertion that the primary purpose of women of childbearing age is to have children. Because that's what influenced the comments of the person who initially made the comment about how she doesn't have kids to keep her humble.
Yes.
Right. And that kind of comment, in my experience, has come from conservative religious circles, right? So religious circles. And again, that kind of comment is defended using the Bible most of the time.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And one of the key passages from the Bible that people use to defend the assertion that every woman is on earth to bear children, and if you don't have your own children, there's something wrong with you, is the go into the world and multiply portion of the Bible in Genesis.
Yes.
And like every other harmful assertion that comes from the Bible, I feel that assertion comes from a misunderstanding of what that Bible passage means when it says go into the world and multiply. So it didn't say go into the world and multiply with kids. It didn't say that. You can multiply the world in so many ways. You can contribute to the expansion of the world in so many ways. You can contribute to the expansion of the world with your thoughts. You can contribute to the expansion of the world with your presence. You can contribute to the expansion of the world with your art. There's so many ways you can contribute. In fact, one of the most prominent people, again, in those circles, Jesus Christ, had no children. But his contribution to this world has been one of the biggest contributions we have seen in centuries, in millennia.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
tell me what you think.
I think this concept of if you did not actually give birth, like if you're not the one who gave birth to that child, then that makes you like less of a woman, or you're not a mother or whatever.
That too.
No, like pushing a baby out and all of that. Yes, it takes a lot of
That
strength.
part.
It does. I'm not going to take away from that. But for the people who do not want to do it, and the people who cannot do it, you cannot take that away from them and say you're not a mother because of that. Because if if they're actually taking care of other kids that are not theirs, they're actually doing the parenting thing that so many other parents who actually gave birth, because you gave birth to a child doesn't even mean you're a good parent. Period.
There we go. That part.
Because-
So to your point, there are so many people who pushed out children, but aren't even the parents of the children.
Absolutely.
That's why adoption exists, right? And again, I feel like mentalities like this that places too much importance on biological parenthood is part of why things like adoption is stigmatized, or why a child who doesn't have their biological parents in their lives feel like they're missing something, when in essence you're not really missing anything. Except for medical purposes, there really isn't any purpose behind knowing your biological parents, as long as you have people who love you and people who care for you. And I say this as the auntie to a niece whose mom walked away from her when she was a little baby. And she ended up being raised by my parents and us and her uncles and aunties. Yeah. We take apart what her needs are, and we share it between us. It takes a village, right?
Yes,
it takes a village.
Yes, it does.
I was just telling Jubilee how I have a nephew when he was 2 years old, and he lived with my parents too. Whenever he feels sleepy, he would come find me. He knew I was the one who would take the time to sing him to sleep, and I'd literally sing to him and make him sleep and put him down.
And that's beautiful too, because that's like, he feels like that's a safe space for him too.
Exactly.
It did not always have to be his mother. It does not mean that the mother's, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's
right.
There's a safe space for me outside of my mother too, and that's okay too.
Right.
And I think this kind of conversations are one of the things that propel this notion, again, which we're going to delve into the politics of Kamala, right? Which then pushes this notion that, right, once you're pregnant, for example, right, now you have to have the kid, correct? Because people are like, having a kid is this, and then, but then now we're forced to let teenage girls, people who were raped, bring kids into the world who they do not love or who they do not care for, just because they want to be called mother.
Right.
Or just because you think, and you who's not contributing to any bill in my house. And that's my thing, right? Okay, so let me track it back to the woman. First of all, I watched the video of the woman who was talking about she has kids who keep her humble. First of all, the job of the kids is not to keep you humble. That's number one.
There we go.
Your kids were not born into this world to keep you humble. Your kids were born into this world to actually be children, grow up, instill good values into them, and so that way they can grow up to become responsible adults in the future. Now, if you choose that you want to be humble, that should be your own doing. That should be a thing that you decided, like, you know what, I want to be humble. I do not want to toot my horn or whatever. But someone like Kamala, she didn't go into these positions. She didn't study all these things. She didn't become ill. Like, all of these positions that she has held in society, she didn't do all of those things so that she can sit down and be like, oh my God, I do not want to really be the president. No!
Imagine running for president and expecting humility. What?
She went to school. She did all of these things so that way she can show people that she's a badass. Like, she wanted people to see that what a man can do, a woman can do too. Like in a society or in places that do not allow those. And she has sat in spaces where men have talked her down, where she has had to actually put her foot down, 10 toes down, and say, listen, you will listen to me the same way that I give you the same respect. So again, there's women who want to feel like they're humble. And honestly, to be honest, I'm sorry, but there's like, that woman just sounds like somebody, the performative humility. I just feel like that's the thing. It's like, you want me to feel like I'm so humble. No. And this is going out to the women out there. Seriously. Like those days of us, like, no, I don't really want people to think that. No, toot your horn. Let me, if you don't say the thing that you're good at, if you don't do the thing that you're good at, how the hell am I supposed to know you're good at it? Because you're humble does not do anything. And then it moves on to the idea like, oh, it's because she doesn't have children. Yes, she doesn't have children. Okay. But that's a choice she made. Because
biological children, because she has her stepkids.
Yes, biological children. And that's a choice that she made. And also, if it's a choice that she did not make, right? How do you know that? Are you in her house? Do you live in her uterus? Do you know what's going on with her? Do you know how many IVFs,
assumptions?
Do you know how many things they have done to get kids and was not possible? And so she decided, you know what? I'm done doing this, and I actually want to take care of the children
just gonna live my life
around me. Exactly. And that's the thing. I think there's this like idea that because a woman decides that she does not want to have a kid, then everybody else is mad. Let me tell you something. Me, since I was a little girl, I did not want to have no children. I said, I ain't doing this. I am not having no children. I am not doing this. And then my aunt was pregnant. God bless her heart. Let me tell you. And I was there when she went into labor. Ooh, when I saw the way she went, the things, the screaming, the biting, the holding, I said, I will never, ever, ever, ever do this. I said, even if you pay me.
And I'm one of those people who also sees the choice to have a kid as a sacred choice. A lot of people see kids as extensions of themselves. No, that's an independent human being you're bringing into this world. And I'm sorry if you cannot acknowledge that you're bringing an independent human being with so much potential into this world. Then if we're going to give qualifications on people who have kids or not, if you can't understand that, you're not even qualified to have a kid. Because a lot of people like see kids as, oh yeah, I want to have a legacy. It's not about you. And that's the funny thing about having a child, is that having a child is not about you, right? Some people are not in the mental state of mind to have kids. They're not
because
in the
like
emotional state of mind to have kids.
They like the aesthetics.
They like the aesthetics and make it about them. But that's a full-fledged human being you'll be bringing with their own soul, with their own spirit that you're bringing into this world. So that's one part of it, is even the choice to have kids. The other part of it, and the statement she made that I really enjoyed, was not every woman is aspiring to be humble. I love that part. And it brings me to what even is humility? Because I feel like, I'll just say it. I feel like, first of all, humility is overrated. And I feel like it is overrated because humanity has twisted around what humility actually is, right? I feel humility is just your ability to acknowledge the humanity in everyone. When Jesus Christ, again, speaking of the Bible, and I use the Bible because I know most of people who are going to disagree with what we're saying are probably going to look at what Jesus Christ said. They're going to bring up the Bible and stuff like that. And so I'll use that very same Bible. When Jesus Christ displayed humility in the Bible, it was always to acknowledge, like, I'm just like you. Greater things than I'm doing, you will do. Those are the portions of the Bible where Jesus Christ expressed humility. Jesus Christ was actually confident. Right? And then when we look at the flip side of the coin, which is to people pride, I feel like people conflate pride with confidence.
Yep.
When you're confident, they say you're proud, but they're not the same thing. Right? So for me, humility is just your ability to acknowledge the humanity in everyone, from the man out under the bridge on the streets begging to the president of the United States, acknowledging that we are all people, we're all human, and we all deserve a basic level of respect. In professional circles, for instance, you have, like bosses accusing you of not being humble simply because you're not making yourself a doormat for them.
Yep.
Mind you, those bosses are not displaying humility in any way, but they're the ones who will accuse you of not being humble, right? And so the accusations of lack of humility actually come from the least humble people.
It's because they
weaponize
it. They weaponize it.
There you go.
That's the truth. They weaponize it because they know that the more, like, because for them, trying to get you to feel like you're humble, for them is trying to push you to become mediocre. Because people like that can shine.
That's a bar.
People like that can shine. When there's like, this is one of the reasons why, especially even in corporate America, right? The moment somebody is doing better than you, the moment the person is learning more than you or whatever, then you want to give them a hard time.
Right.
As opposed to like saying to yourself, what's the value that person is bringing? How can I help that person hone that value that they have, that skill that they have? But instead, you're sitting down there and feeling intimidated by it. So I think that sometimes people weaponize the idea of being humble. And you mentioned being proud. And for me, it's like, there's places and spaces to be proud. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There's moments when you should be proud. You should stand 10 toes on your pride. Now, when you start to become arrogant, is where there's problems. Do you get me? Because there's a difference between actually being proud of something you've done and as opposed to be like being arrogant with it, where it's like, okay, you come into a room, you say to me like, oh man, I'm so happy the way that we built this building. I remember okay, great. And then now you start to go, I'm glad you're proud of it, but I can sit with it and enjoy it. Now when you start to go and say, have you ever built a building like this? Okay, first of all, calm down. We just got it.
I said, first of all, calm down.
I think that people like to use words like pride, words like humility to actually disempower people. That's the truth. So a statement like that, right? Like the lady who said, I don't know, it's supposed to hit emotionally. It's supposed to make you feel like, oh, maybe I'm not a humble person, blah, 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 blah. And especially as a woman in today's society where you're forced to always, or not today's society actually, for women for the longest time, you're forced to like belittle yourself, almost act like you're second-class citizens in, you know, in this world. And so it's like when you say that, it's like, oh, am I not humble? No. And that's why I love when she said, some of us do not aspire to be humble.
Yeah.
And honestly, that woman missed it because it's not only women who do not have kids. There's mothers who are not aspiring to be humble.
There you go. That part.
They said, I'm going to have my kid. And after that, I'm going to live my life. I've seen mothers, especially even on social media. I see moms who have those kids and they train those kids, have time for those kids, and then they get back to business. In the words of Beyonce, you know what I mean? Strong enough to, you know what I mean? Bear them children. Then get back to business.
And get back to business. You better start playing.
You know what I mean? And that's
Don't
what
get me started.
But that's what scares, and that's what scares people who do not have that.
There's so much to unpack from what you said, but I want to begin with the part where you mentioned how statements like that are meant to disempower people. Not a lot of people know this, but I'm telling you, especially women, anything that incites guilt, anything that incites shame, anything that incites fear is not for your good. So again, statements like that, when you go, oh, you're not humble, it's supposed to incite, first of all, we'll start with guilt, right? Oh, humility is a virtue. They say, mind you, they've changed the meaning of humility to start. So already the game is rigged. So already they've rigged the game. So they say you're not humble, and because you've heard that humility is a virtue, the first thing is that you feel guilty. And then the next thing is that you feel shameful. And then the next thing is that you feel fearful, that you're not virtuous, right? So anything that incites all those things in anybody is not for your good. That's what I think.
No.
And I actually feel if we go into the etymological origins of the word humility, and for people who don't know what that means,
us a big word. This is why I love you with your big words.
I can't with Jubilee. Look, I'm
do you have friends? Do you have friends who know big words? You don't. Me, I do.
I can't with Jubilee.
You don't have friends that keep you humble. You don't have friends that keep you humble.
I don't have friends. No, I'm not a friend that keeps you humble. No. Screw humility. We're not in this house. We're not humble. Anyways, back to what I was saying. I'm a student of philosophy, y'all. Philosophy was one of my best subjects going to school. I actually studied philosophy at Oxford for 6 months, right? So, and the reason why, etymological origins, Jubilee, I'm laughing now saying the word because of Jubilee. The reason why the etymological origin of anything is important is you're getting to the bottom of where did this word come from? Because words only have the meaning we give them. And that's why it's important, right?
Yeah.
And then the meaning of the core of where the word humble comes from is earth, right? That's why people say, when you're humble, people say you're down to earth.
Yes.
They say you're down to earth. But what does it really mean to be down to earth? I personally feel like the most down to earth. That's not what we mean. I feel the most down to earth you can be is yourself.
Yes.
When you think about it. The
Yes.
most down to earth you can be is yourself. Anything else is manipulation.
Yes. That I
Anything
agree.
else that isn't you is manipulation to fit the context of someone else so you can get ahead.
I
So if
agree.
you're not being yourself and you're saying, oh, because this person is a billionaire or a millionaire or whatever, I'm going to change the way that I show up for this specific person, to me, that's actually dishonoring your humility and dishonoring your down-to-earthness and dishonoring who you really are.
But here's the thing that's so funny, because now I'm about to
Yeah.
pull it to our Nigerian side. This is the thing that's so funny about our Nigerian parents. They talk to you about how you should not be, you should be humble. You should not, you should not walk into. But then, when something happens, then they look you straight in the eye and ask you why you are acting like you don't have mouth to speak up for yourself. Then
That
they'll
part.
ask you, why are you acting like you are a cockroach that is dying? Why are you acting like a
That
mosquito?
part.
Insult you with like, why are you acting like an anopheles mosquito that has not seen blood
That
to suck?
part.
Do you know
That
what I
part.
mean? But then
Your parents can insult people, Jesus.
they'll not tell you the person that came first in your class, does he have 88 heads?
He didn't have
Is he
2
better
heads.
than you? Did you not study? It's not the same that is studying. And then they will remind you, like, if you don't study, you are going to be a cleaner. You are going to be a gardener. It's of you to be a doctor, so that way you can be going to Harvard. Then they'll come and do you see? And then they tell you be humble. So you already grew up with the mindset of, I don't know what humility is.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
The funny thing is, it's not only what they say, right? Because again, mind you, kids
It's
don't
how they
even
act too.
listen to. It's how they act. It's
Because
how they act. It's
when
how
they
they
go to
dress
an event,
when they are going to church.
I was
It's
just
how they spray
thinking,
money.
it's the behavior.
how they
So I'm like, are we humble or are we not humble? Because
Right. Which
because
you can't have it both ways,
you're
right?
right. It's the way that they act,
Yeah.
the way that they move, the way that they dress.
And they'll be the first to say we are a prideful people. You probably heard your parents. I've heard
Yes,
my mom say that.
of course.
We are a
Yes.
prideful people. So
Be proud of where you're from. Be proud of, and I'm like,
remember the daughter of who you are. Remember that one
Remember the
followed
family
me
you're
everywhere I
coming from.
went in life.
Yes. So I think that the idea of humility should be less about like trying to be like, oh, I want to be down to earth. No, it should be about you being able to actually shine your light and allow other people shine their light.
Right.
Shine their light to
right.
give them the opportunity to actually shine
Yeah.
their light, as opposed to like
Yeah.
holding it up to yourself and only speaking about your light.
Yeah.
Allow people the opportunity to speak about their own light too, to shine in their own light too. Give them the room to do that
Absolutely.
as much as they give you room to do that. That's what I think.
Absolutely. So 2 things. The first thing you mentioned about, Nigerian culture. I think our cultures are very different. Like what is inherently us, who we inherently are, is very different from that concept. And we can get into a whole conversation about how the concept that was fed to us was actually meant to oppress us. Or
Of
to make
course.
us more pliable.
Of
more
course.
pliable for oppression. Make us more agreeable to oppression.
Yes.
Because mind you, what a lot of people define as humility nowadays is just agreeability.
Yep.
When they say, oh, be humble, what they're just saying is be agreeable. But yeah, I think, like for me, I am not humble. I do not want to be described as humble. I'm not aspiring to be humble, just like Kamala isn't.
Yes, and that's kind of woman I like in my corner as well.
There you go. There you go.
People
there
who
you
say
go.
I'm gonna do stuff and they do it, and they do not do
Yep.
it. They do
True
not
to
half-ass
themselves. We also live in a world where people advise you to redefine what success means to you.
Yep.
So if you can redefine what success means to you, why can't you redefine what humility means to you?
You can redefine.
Why can't you redefine? You can literally define anything you want to redefine.
No, maybe
Right?
not. Because now this is where those supremacists will come in and say they
Oh,
want to redefine
no.
other things.
Okay, I should have
Because I did
prefaced
watch
what
a debate where a girl was saying
Yeah.
that if every state wants what they want, they should. And she said if a state wants them to reinstate slavery, they should. And I was
Yeah.
like, excuse me, the audacity in public.
So again, to the point where you are not impeding on the freedoms of other
Yes,
people.
there you go.
That's what I should have prefaced it with.
Impeding on the freedom of others. Thank you.
Jimmy, leave me alone. To the point where you're not impeding on the freedom of others. I feel like I am full about this conversation. I
Me
feel like we've touched
too.
on all the
Me
points
too.
we wanted to touch on. So,
Excited
Jimmy, is there
for it.
anything you wanted to close with?
No, I just wanted to say thank you again. Just like we opened, thank you so much for like honestly just like listening to us. Like Cynthia mentioned earlier, we have like over 20 subscribers, which means that there's like 20 people who show up every time we put out an episode and they watch it, they listen to it. So we really want to say thank you so much for that. And as we continue to grow our community, we'll continue to, you know, speak about things that we know will interest you. Again, the reason why you're coming back is because you love what we're talking about. But also, if there's stuff that you're like, I would love to hear your point of view on this stuff, I would love to hear your point of view on that, you can shoot us an email so that way we can take a look at it and be like, ooh, okay, they want to know some juicy stuff. And then we can talk about it. Yeah, and then Cynthia can give us big words to take us to the next level. So that
it's what I do. in the spirit
but
of
I
not
love
being
it.
humble.
No, but I love it because we're learning. We're not just learning, you know, our point of views, but we're learning new words as we go every day.
There you go.
Did I come?
There you go.
When I go today, I'm about to pieces this word. Everywhere I go to, you know, you learn a new word. You
know?
You look for a reason to insert it in the statement.
You look for a reason to insert the word.
And you be like, does the dichotomy of that,
you know,
sit?
Come for the entertainment, stay for the education.
Yes. Ooh, I love that. I actually love that. That is so good. Yes, I love that. Okay. There you go.
This has been another amazing episode of the Two Naija Girls. I am Cynthia, one of your Naija girls, and that's my other Naija girl,
Jubilee
Gamaniel, and we'll see you all on the next episode.
Perfect.